it felt like it felt like we were really starting to build a father son relationship again. And that was something that I needed when I was younger.
Okay, Brandon. So my first question is, how have you been? And give me the realest answer possible.
Things have been pretty good, to be honest. I have no real complaints. And honestly, I think one of the biggest reasons that's been the case for me as of late is because I don't know how you are with, religion, but I just, I just recently started taking my walk with Christ a little more seriously, and just been in a bigger habit of reading my Bible, trying to do right by people, going to church, um, trying to spread the word, and just trying to do things the way I feel like Jesus would want me to.
So it sounds like God and Jesus play a large role in your overall life and overall happiness.
I would say so, yeah, which is funny too, because, as I said, when I say that I just started taking my walk with Christ a lot more seriously, I'm really talking about like very, very recent. Like I'm talking, if you would have asked me last year about what my thoughts were on there being God or Jesus, I probably would have told you I was an atheist. And it's just
Hmm.
between my family, mainly my younger brother. Some of my friends that's been around me. Booker. I'm pretty sure. Um, he helped. Played a large part in getting me back into the church. So it's things have been good, man. I have no I have no complaints.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, tell us how you went from an atheist to are you a Christian now?
Yeah.
So tell us like how like what made you go from atheism to Christianity in like just a year?
Honestly, it just got to the point where when you get to a certain position where you just feel like, well, I just felt like I didn't have anywhere else to go. My back was against the wall. I was
Mm.
depressed. Couldn't really figure out why. Um, a lot of it to be honest, a lot of it had to do with my most previous relationship that ended, what, 5 years ago. I mean, it wasn't the reason, but it played a part. And there were a lot of things that I was beating myself up about, between that, childhood trauma, um, and just trying to live this life the best way that I can and try to be as happy as I can. And I've kind of figured that, me trying to do that on my own, it just didn't, I wasn't fulfilling myself the way I wanted to. So I had my brother, he got into my ear. I got a Bible from Booker, and they just told me just give it a shot, read it, say some prayers. I ended up going to church with Booker. I have another friend named Jordan. He invited me to his Bible study. I go with him every Tuesday, and it's helped a lot. For me, it's just like it. If I were to say I had a lot of people in my ear that kind of helped me bring me back to it, because my family, they grew up Christian, and one of the things that honestly kind of turned me away from it was the fact that when I was younger, it was something that was forced upon me. And I didn't really like that too much. I was
Mm.
always told that, you have to do this or you have to do that. You're coming with us to church whether you want to or not. I've even had some relatives tell me that, like, if you don't do this or you don't live this type of way, then you're going to go to hell. And I'm like, that's not, I mean, whether that's true or not, that's not something that you say to anybody, because, like, who are you to judge? I mean, not even saying that anything about God or Jesus being the only ones that can judge, but who are you to judge me? I mean? Like, nobody's perfect, so it was one of those things that was just forced upon me. And, I wouldn't say I was a rebel, but to try to fear monger me, I wasn't too keen on that. So in a way, it just kind of turned me away from it.
Because there's so many parents who like shove religion down their children's throat thinking that it's going to like make them more Christian or make them the way that they wanted them to be, when in reality sometimes it just pushes them even farther. So let's talk, you mentioned your ex-girlfriend. Are you comfortable talking about that relationship?
Yeah, it's fun.
All right, tell us what happened.
Well, we met at the gym that I go to, Retro Fitness, back in like 2019.
Oh,
I
you
had
met
seen
at a
her.
gym.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually, I was, I would actually planned on going later today, but I don't know if I'm gonna have time. My gym closes at 7 today, but we'll see. Um, we met at the gym, and we got to talking. Honestly, I just went up to her because I was interested, and we started talking. She gave me her phone number. One thing led to another, and then a couple dates. She ends up being my girlfriend. So at the time I was 31,
Okay.
about to turn 32, and she's same age as me. Her birthday is actually this month. Um, so I don't really like to put any pressure on anybody or anything like that, but I also think that it's important, like in a relationship, you know, not so much setting boundaries, but it's important that you let your partner know what it is that you want and what it is that you're looking for, like in the future, anything like that. So you and I had a conversation last week, and at the time, I mean, well, I still kind of do, but I want I wanted kids, at least one,
Okay.
and when I brought that to her, like marriage is one thing. I
Mm-hmm.
get that, and I would like to get married one day too. But like having a kid is like that's bigger than marriage. Like that's a lifelong commitment.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. Like I feel like I'm mature enough to do that. I can, I would like to have another me, be able to start my own family. Protect
Mm-hmm.
and provide. I'm all for that. I've always wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
My father taught me that, and he showed me that. Um, so I mentioned it to her, not necessarily as a deal breaker, but it's something that I wanted, and it's something that I would aspire for. And it kind of came off to me that not so much that she had never thought about it, but um, and not maybe not that she didn't want to have children, but it came off to me as if she wasn't really thinking about that at the time, and that kind of, I feel like in hindsight, was a mistake that I made, and still kind of going along with it, because I mean that was something that I really wanted, and it just, like I said, it just didn't seem like it was something she was into. The relationship overall was pretty good, but the between that and we had the issue where she's a nurse and she worked evening shift, and I
Okay.
worked during the day.
Uh,
But I'm getting off. I get off at like 5. I work 7 to 5,
mhm.
7 a.m. 5 p.m. She works 3 to 11,
I
and
see.
I'm off every weekend. She's off every other weekend.
I see.
So it was that kind of involved, kind of, as far as a kid, as well as us not really being able to have as much time as we wanted to be with each other. It was difficult to help the relationship grow. I mean, obviously there's texting, there's FaceTime, but I mean the quality time is important, especially when it's a newer relationship. You know what I mean? Like we weren't even like a year in, and we were already having like these kind of issues where it's like, when are we going to see each other, kind of thing. And I like to think that we both did our best. I know I did. She didn't really do too much or do too much of anything to make me feel like she wasn't giving her best effort. I mean, I don't I don't really know that for sure, but I know she never made me feel that way. But then it just got to the point, where it just started to take its toll, and you know, uh, arguments started happening more frequently, and
Okay.
it didn't like that, and us not being able to talk to each other, because like this stuff was happening like on the phone, through text, sometimes
Oh,
FaceTime. Like a lot of
oh,
context is like misconstrued in situations like that. So it just, unfortunately, it just started to deteriorate a lot quicker, and it's just we both just kind of decided that it'd probably be best if we went our separate ways. I actually ended up, we were talking about it during the breakup process, I would say, if that's what you want to call it.
mhm.
I mentioned that as far as the whole children thing, like that was something that I wanted, and even then she was still kind of like iffy about it. So in my head, I'm like, as much as I like this girl, it would probably be in our best interest if we just kind of break this off now. If this is something that's meant to be, then maybe somewhere down the road. But right now, it just doesn't really feel like the best time for us to be together. And what I don't want is for us to get to the point where we start to resent one another,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, from stuff
yeah.
like that. And
Mhm.
it was actually, to be, I haven't had very many relationships in my life. I've had relations with girls, but as far as like having an official relationship with a girl, like it
Mhm.
really hasn't been that many.
Mhm.
But I will say that of the relationship that I did have, that one was probably that breakup was probably the most amicable one I've ever had. So she was definitely somebody that I really liked. Um, I really do wish that one would have worked out. We don't really talk the way we
Mhm.
used to at all. I actually seen her at the Halloween store last year buying a costume. I guess she was going to a party and I was too. We ran into each other,
Uh-huh.
talked for a little bit, nothing crazy, and then didn't hear. This is like in October, like mid October. Didn't
Mhm.
hear from her again, and then she randomly texted me happy birthday on my birthday in
Oh,
February.
nice.
Yeah, it was nice. Like I said, it was amicable. She's doing her thing, I'm doing mine. But um, to me, it just kind of goes to show that things can be good. You really can like somebody. You really can, you know, put in your best effort. But sometimes that really just isn't enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so what I'm hearing is that the breakup really wasn't anything personal. You were just on two different pages. You wanted kids, and she didn't want kids, and you had conflicting work schedules, and that the breakup wasn't really anything personal. Did I get that right?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
And I would love to know because you did mention arguments, which kind of made me like question my own theory. So
Hmm.
like, what do you want to talk about? What the arguments were about, or
Well, they a lot of it was just mostly about the time that I would say, couldn't spend with one another, and she wasn't really too keen on the fact that I had a couple friends that were women,
okay,
but it's like very, very few. It's not like that. And the women that I'm like friends with, I mean, we are. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I don't never really hung out with them like that. But then there were times when we were all like I was invited. There was never a time that any of these women that ever invited me to hang out invited me without her. Like if they told me, "Oh, we're doing this, bring your girl." All right,
okay,
cool.
so
We
they were friends with her as well.
uh, I guess you could say that. Like
For
mainly, it was like
maybe.
through yeah, like mainly like through me. It
Okay.
was just like friendship by association kind of
Okay.
thing.
So like acquaintances. Okay.
Basically, they were well, it's not even that many. It was really only like two different girls, both of which that I worked with. They really wanted to meet her, and don't get me wrong, like Becca, she didn't. That's the girl that I was dating, Becca. She she didn't necessarily not want to meet them, but it was just I mean, between the schedules and the fact that I had more time to hang out with them than her, and that really wasn't that didn't help anything at all.
Because of the
It
work
was just like, what's up?
because of the work schedules, that's why you were able to hang out with them more.
Right. Like she's getting out of work at like 11 o'clock, not getting home till like 11:30, almost 12.
Hmm.
And then it's like I'm at a barbecue or whatever or a party or something like that at like 6 to like 10 or whatever like that. It's like she really can't be there. Now this wasn't all the time, but it was I guess to her it was more than enough. So and as opposed to how frequently I was able to see her, it just it was like a snowball effect.
So, Brendan, one thing I know about men and women is when men and women are close friends, there's
Mhm.
generally at least one person that has some attraction to the other person. At least one, if not both.
I agree with you.
So I'm wondering, like, what was going on there? Like, were you attracted to them? Were they attracted to you? Was it a little bit of
I wasn't attracted to them like that, like at all. I mean, well, one of the girls, her name was Jennifer. I met her through her boyfriend
okay.
because, yeah, because I mean, he worked there too,
Uh-huh.
but it was I don't know. He was like around. We him and I worked in the same department, and I would see them around. But
Hmm.
she worked in shipping department, and she ended up getting me a promotion there because I was ready to quit. They needed somebody who I worked in a warehouse at the time, and like 95, no exaggeration, like 95% of the people that worked there spoke Spanish, and I'd
Uh-huh.
say about 70% of them only spoke Spanish. So they needed somebody to work on the shipping dock who spoke English so we can communicate with the drivers who were coming in to pick up the supplies we were shipping out.
Uh-huh.
I was that person. She knew I wanted to quit. She mentioned my name, and then they ended up asking me if I wanted, and I got that. So I mean, just out of appreciation, I'm like, oh, I like thanks. We got closer because of that. Her. I mean, don't get me wrong. Me and her boyfriend, now husband, were always like cool, but um, as far as attraction on my end, it wasn't like that for me. I never really got that vibe from her,
Okay.
but it is interesting that you said that because there were people at the job who did make that assumption. But I don't disagree with you with that. As far as typically there's one party that's physically attracted to the other person, and honestly, from my opinion, I typically think it's usually the guy who
Okay.
has the most attraction, in
Yeah,
my
that would be
opinion.
true. Yeah, yeah.
But on my end, no, it was never like that with her.
Okay, so it sounds like you didn't have any physical attraction, but there's a possibility that maybe she did, and you're not sure.
Possibly,
Uh-huh.
possibly, maybe. But I mean, I never got that vibe. But I don't know, women
But sometimes they hide it really well.
they do, and women, and because they do that, like other women can see that on other women. Maybe there's something that she saw that I didn't see, or something that I didn't notice. But I mean, it was like I never really looked at it like that. Like I've never really been the kind of person to try to be entertained more than one person. I my
Respect that.
patience is already pretty thin for most people. Like my social media runs out, so it's like the last thing I'm trying to do is be entertaining more than one person
I
at
really
one time.
respect that. So now
That's
I'm
way too
wondering,
much
like,
work.
how assertive was your girlfriend? Like, would she say like you can't see them anymore? Like, what did how did she react? How assertive was she?
It wasn't so much that like you couldn't see her anymore, but what kind of rose my antenna, so to speak, was there was one time, it was during the summer. It was they were just having a party. I forgot what the event was for.
Uh-huh.
I believe it's the birthday party, and I ended up going. She couldn't go because she was at work. It was on a Saturday, and she just flat out just said it. She was like, you've been spending a lot of time with her,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I mean, my response to that was, well, we could be spending a lot of time with them if we actually had the time. And don't I, in hindsight, that might not have been the best response, which and actually ended up leading to a much bigger argument. Like nothing crazy, but that certainly didn't help. But she made it clear to me that it's like, you know, she didn't actually say she didn't like it, but she just kind of she gave off that vibe, like you guys are around each other a lot. It's like you're seeing her more than you see me,
Mm-hmm.
and like she didn't ask if there was anything going on, but I felt like personally that she was like insinuating that, which at that point, as her boyfriend, I felt like it was important for me to let her know like that's not the case. Just to reaffirm that there's nothing going on. Like I'm here for you. Like I'm not wasting my time with nobody else. I'm not wasting your time. Wasting your time, I'll be wasting my time. I know she was engaged to this guy at the time. I don't violate like that.
Right.
Whenever. You
So
know.
I mean, it sounds to me like you were right. Like she was like getting pretty jealous because women and men can get jealous. So
Of
now
course.
I'm wondering like. If you could rewind time, what would you have done differently?
You know, that's actually a great question because, like I said, man, I really, really like that girl,
Yeah,
and I often, I often think about things that I probably could have did differently
we
to
all do.
maybe, yeah, right, to probably preserve that
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah, yeah.
But to be honest with you, Chris, I'm not sure there's too much I could have done. Like, dude, I did my absolute best
Yeah.
at all times to reassure to this girl that like it's only you. You were the only one. I don't like
Uh-huh.
apple of my eye. I'm not trying to I wasn't. I'm not old. Even now, I'm 37 years old now. At the time, I was 31, turning 32.
Hmm.
You know, I was at the time I was as old as I've ever been,
Hmm.
but I'm not old. You
Right.
know, so it's like I felt like I was still time. There was still stuff that we could have done, stuff that I wanted to do with you. Like I'm not trying to waste any time now. It's like if, like I said, I want to have kids. You know, as we get older, and especially with women, their biological clock is ticking. It's not the same
Yeah,
for us men.
of
You
course.
know, like I do my best. I go to the gym as frequently as I can. I try to eat as good as I can to try to stay in the best shape as I can, so that whatever. If I end up having a kid one day, I'm still be physically able to take care of that kid, protect, provide, whatever it is I need to do. But father time waits for no man.
Yeah.
So I'm trying at the time, like I'm not playing games, bro. Like I'm trying to do the best that I can to make this as good as it could possibly be. So, we can do that. We can really do this. We can build this family the way I would really like to. And she seemed like she was all for it too. Uh, I just, I don't, I'm not sure if there's anything I could have done,
No,
anything differently.
that's a good answer because sometimes there is nothing, right? Like sometimes two people, for whatever reason, whether it's work schedule, whether it's, one person wanting kids, like sometimes two people are just for whatever reason not meant to be, right? And there's nothing that you could have done. So
Right.
another thing I learned about women is that you have to show, in order to make them feel loved, you have to show it through actions, not just words, right? So,
Facts.
and I'm sure you did. And I learned that, like, I remember when I was 30, I was talking to a woman, and I would say all the time, like, I care about you, I care about you. Can't you see that I care about you? And then I learned that you have to show it through your actions. So I'm wondering, like, let's just say that you, for example, how does the idea of cutting off your female friend for the sake of the relationship sound to you?
For this, if for her,
Yeah.
if it was necessary, then absolutely.
Mm.
But the problem that I had then was not so much about cutting her off, but it's like I'm trying to bring you around these people. I personally felt that she wasn't around enough to really get a good idea of who these people were, get a better understanding of who they were, and
Uh,
see what kind of friendship we actually have. So I'm
uh,
telling you, if she was actually there enough, she would have seen the type of friendship that we have to where she would have. I I personally don't think that would have been a thought. Well, that's just the way I see it. I mean, she
uh,
probably could have seen other things, but the way I saw it and how close we were, and the fact that I actually am friends with her then fiance, now husband.
mm.
I just don't think that really would have been a problem. But to answer your question, for the sake, like I said, I was trying to get married. I
Yeah.
mean, I would like to get married one day. I'm not gonna say that I was gonna propose to that girl right then and there. Obviously, you
Mm.
got to try to get to know the person,
Mm.
but I don't get into the relationship for the sake of just calling somebody my girl. Like I'm trying to build something. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So if that's what it's gonna take for the woman I'm going to be with, for a woman I would like to have children with and build something with, then absolutely. Like if it was absolutely necessary, if I knew for a fact it was really really bothering her,
Hmm.
then I just feel like I'm gonna choose my wife or the person I'm with every single time. That's just me.
So my theory is that it was bothering her way more than she expressed that it was bothering her.
That's kind of how it came off, to be
Because
honest.
sometimes like people don't really express how much things are bothering them. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
And I think that sometimes they do that because they don't want to, what do I say, ruffle feathers, so to speak. They don't
and
want
they
to, what
just
they feel like is already going good.
they don't want
They
to
don't
come
want to,
across,
they don't
they
want
don't
to
want
mess
to
it
come,
up.
yeah, they don't want to come across as weak. Like I know as a man, I've been told by various women that jealousy makes you look like a bitch. That's what I've been
For
told.
sure.
Like so
For
like
sure.
so now I'm at the point where like if I am jealous, I'm keeping my mouth shut because I'm not trying to look like a bitch to the girl I'm with, you know what I mean?
For sure, bro. Because they, man, they not so much. Well, I would say not so much that they won't hold it against you. They might not say anything, but you can rest assured that they will 100% look at you differently every single time, no matter what you do. Like if you come off as jealous, that's a sign of weakness. Us as
Yeah.
men, they're looking at us to be able to protect and provide. How we supposed, in her eyes, in her mind, how are we supposed to protect if we can't even deal with something or mentally weak about something like that? You know, it's what the women like to call an ick now,
Yeah.
basically.
And it is a little bit of a double standard because when a girl is cute, when a girl is jealous, I find it so cute. And my friend said the same
Yeah, it's
thing.
adorable.
My friend said the same thing. Like one time, my friend has a story of like a girl was messaging him about shoes because he resells shoes, and then
Mm-hmm.
his girl took the phone. And she was like, "Who is this bitch?" And he found it really, really cute. And it's like they're double standards both way, but one double standard is like when a girl is jealous, or even just emotional in general, we often find it cute.
Yeah, I think it's adorable. It's oh, you really care.
Exactly.
Like you really want to, like you don't want anybody else getting near me because you want to be the only one. Like I love that. I personally love that. It just makes, because us as men, like it's different for women, because like women, they, no matter what it is that they, what kind of personality they have, what they look like, there's always men, especially in this generation, like they get compliments all the time, get told that they're beautiful all the time. That's like regular shit to them.
Yeah.
You know, us as men, like not to say that we don't get compliments, but it's, and I won't even say it's far and few, but I wouldn't say that we probably get them as frequently as like a woman would, like a beautiful woman. Of course, there's gonna be dudes in her inbox or in her face or trying to get her number all the time. You know, so um, I stuff like that, when to see that they feel some type of way or they get bothered about something like that, it's like okay, like it just feels good to know that there's somebody who cares that much about me to where they feel like they might be losing me and they don't want that. You know, so I that's how I look at it. So it's cute. You know, it's nice to know that there's somebody out there who isn't my grandmother and my mother who actually cares. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right, right. No, I mean, there's a lot to respond to there, but you took the words right out of my mouth when you said like the way you feel is like, oh, that's cute. Like that's exactly how I feel. Like you actually care. Like it's proof. We view jealousy as proof and like hardcore evidence that you actually care about us as human beings. And this might again like this podcast might ruffle some feathers a little bit, but it is true that generally like there are actually studies that show that women get way more compliments. I think that the study is women get about 75% of compliments. And when it comes to physical appearance, it's way more. Like, if you're comparing like the average man to the average woman, women get complimented way more, especially on physical appearance. So it's so interesting because as men, like sometimes when we get a compliment, we really really feel it. Like for example, once I was reading this TikTok comment, and it said something like, there was another dude who said that I looked spiffy 3 months ago, and I'm still holding on to it. And it's so interesting because a lot of girls don't understand. Like a lot of men receive a compliment literally like every 3 4 months, and a lot of women don't understand that.
Man, I had an older woman in the grocery store the other day tell me that she was standing in front of me, we're online, and then I guess she needed something. She turned around, she turned around to see how long the line was, looked at me, turned back around, turned and looked at me again. It was like, you have a really nice beard. I'm like, thank you, miss. Thank you so much. That's all she said to me. And bro, this was months ago, and I still think about it. You know, it's like it comes far and few, but it's nice. It's just nice to hear it, you know, as a guy, because I mean, like I said, it don't happen often. I don't consider myself an ugly person at all, you
Uh,
know, but it's like, I mean, when I hear stuff like that, it makes you feel good. You look good, you
Yeah,
feel good.
same. I think the reason why it feels so good is because it's so far and few in between. I think that if we heard compliments every single day, I think it would lose a little bit of its charm and a little bit of its grace, because we like that which is hard to get, right? So if you're barely ever receiving something like a compliment, then you're going to tend to like it more. So Brandon, we talked before the podcast started about a little bit about how your childhood trauma might have affected your relationships. Again, I want to repeat it again. Whatever you don't want to share, you don't have to share. It's up to you. This is it's your episode. So whatever you don't want, it's up to you what you share. But yeah, do you want to talk about how some of your childhood trauma might have affected your relationships?
Well, for starters, like I said, I'm 37 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Growing up, I actually used to live in Indianapolis. I have two brothers and a sister. I'm the middle child. I have a younger brother. There's me. I have an older sister and an older brother. There's my
Mm-hmm.
mom and dad, obviously.
Okay.
So my oldest brother, my mom had with a different guy. That guy, my oldest brother, his father passed away.
Okay.
Then my mom met my dad, and that's where the rest of us came from.
Okay.
So for whatever reason, if I were to guess, probably because he wasn't his, my dad just treated my oldest brother like shit,
Because it
and I
wasn't
don't know
his.
why. Yeah, that's the only thing it could have been,
Of course.
you know.
Of course.
Um, so at the time, like it was very bad. It got really bad, Um, we lived in the neighborhood. You have all these families together, like going out doing picnics, doing all these family activities, and it was just one of those things. Like there was, because of that relationship that my father had with my older brother, there was just so much chaos and excuse me in our house because of that. Because my mom wasn't standing for that shit, but my father would still try it. I was 8 years old, and I came home from school one day. I have a younger brother. He's a year younger than me. So at the time, I lived in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
We got home. Um, the elementary students got home the latest. I mean, kind of, it's just like how it is out here. So
Right.
I just remember coming home one day, putting my key in the door, opening it up, and my at the time 15-year-old older brother is literally fist fighting my dad,
Wow.
like fist fighting. I'm like, it just chaos, dude. I'm like in tears, just crying. There's so much going on for me to comprehend. I don't know what's going on. Like, so, turns out, long story short, the reason why they were fighting is because we found out that I had a younger sister that my dad had with another woman. Um, Older brother found out about it first. He saw pictures. My dad used to be a truck driver. He used to drive over the country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, they were every summer when we would get out of school, we would actually come up here because my grandfather used to live out here in Bay Shore, as a matter of fact. We would come out here to visit. My dad, I guess he forgot that he had the pictures of my sister and my half sister and her mother in his truck in his 18-wheeler. He asked my brother to go help him clean out his truck one day.
Uh-huh.
My older brother found it. He saw it. He didn't. He took one of the pictures as proof. Didn't say anything about it. Went home, showed my mom. Huge ass fight starts. Dad learns that um, that my brother was the one who showed her this stuff. One thing led to another, and then it's just after that. It's just from that point on. It was just as far as the relationship between my mother and father. It just went downhill from there. My dad, he was the breadwinner of the family. My mom, she worked, but it was four of us. He made the most money, so it was really just him. They ended up splitting up. My mom kept all of us. We lost everything, dude. We had nothing. My dad, my mom just left. We got our own apartment. It was five of us in a 2-bedroom apartment to get away from my dad, and it's just like, my mom, she did the best that she could, but that's five children by herself,
Yeah.
and it's just, we've lived with people. I've lived in shelters.
Oh wow.
It's just, I just had a really rough upbringing because my dad, he would treat my brother like shit. My mom would defend him. It would get to the point he started treating my mom like shit, and then to find out that there was another woman and he had another kid with her, and it was actually trying to justify it. It really just didn't make for a very healthy environment. So then we left him, my mom. Well, we left my dad after that,
Mhm.
and it was so difficult for her. Like, dude, we were constantly moving. Like, Christian, by the time I was 12 years old, I probably already lived in like 8 different homes.
Wow.
Whether it's a shelter, a house that we actually were able, a house that we lived in, the apartment that we lived in, living with friends, family, just trying to. I've changed schools like 4 or 5 different times.
Wow.
It was so rough. Like growing up, it was really hard for me to make friends for a while. Just because in my head, I'm like, how long am I even going to be here? So it's just for that, with those kinds of things happening. My mom, there's four of us. My mom, she's like I said, she's doing the best that she can, but she's got her mind in all these different places, trying to figure out how she's gonna make this money, pay all these bills. The reality situation, I think, is that how we had this conversation last week, how women are nurturers,
Hmm.
are better nurturers than men. Men are better protectors and providers.
Hmm.
She was able to do that, but her trying to do all of that by herself with so many of us is just, she's just constantly working. And it was to the point where my older brother and my older sister was just mainly the ones taking care of me and my younger brother. So from a very young age, I wouldn't say that I was on my own, but there just wasn't, I just didn't feel like there was anybody around to be able to nurture enough to be able to guide us in the way that we probably should have been able to guide it as children, to be able to create these bonds and just try to be as healthy mentally as possible. It was very tough,
So yeah,
So
so I mean, it sounds to me like your dad really just ruined the entire family dynamic.
100%,
So
one hundred
yeah,
percent.
so I have so many questions. Um, so how old was the girl when you found out that? Because what I'm hearing is that he had an affair and had a baby with another woman. So how old was the little girl at the time?
So my my birthday is February 16th, 1989.
Uh,
My youngest brother, he's not even a full year younger than me. His birthday is January 16th, 1990. It
mhm.
was almost like as soon as my mom had me, and they say this too, like after women have children, that's when they're like, apparently they're like the most fertile or whatever.
Okay.
And she ends up getting pregnant again, has my brother. So, like I said, he's not even a full year younger than me. And this girl, my sister, her name is Madison. She is a year younger than my youngest brother.
Okay. Okay.
So it was like back to back to back.
Okay. So he was hiding another family for how long?
Uh, I would say at that point, about 6 years.
And oh wow, 6 years hiding. And was he visiting her? Was he that
And
was
that's exactly how it happened, because as I said earlier, he was a truck driver and he
okay.
drove across the country.
Okay. Okay.
She was in Texas, and I remember growing up, he would freak. There's Texas and California. Those are the two. Those are the two cities. I mean, he would go other places, obviously, to make deliveries, but those are the two places he went to the most frequently. And um, turns out that him going to Texas was for one of those reasons. He, because like he would go out. I remember he would have to go to Texas, and he would be gone for like 2 3 weeks at a time. When all you have to do, I know as a truck driver, all you gotta do is go there. You don't even have to like sit there and wait for them to load. You can go there and just swap the trailer. Just drop the trailer, grab a new one, and just make your way back. So that driving, that should take maybe like a week tops, if that. That's like tops.
Uh-huh.
But he would be out like 2 3 weeks at a time, and it was I never questioned it. I never really thought. I mean, I'm 7 years old. I'm not thinking about that.
Right.
You know, and my mom, she was good at like not really like trying to keep us out of adults' business and stuff like that. But I'm sure she had her thoughts and her suspicions, and then for that stuff to come to light, it's just it broke her, dude.
Yeah.
It really messed her up.
I mean, to hide a whole second life for 6 years, that's a really like I'm sure the first reaction would be denial, kind of like no way, like there's no way this can be true, and then I guess after a while reality sinks in. So I have a million more questions. So would you say that you currently have resentment towards your father?
I did for a very long time.
Hmm.
Um, when I say a very long time, I'm talking about until like 2022,
Hmm.
where he was living with my aunts, Baltimore, and he actually had gotten really sick, and he called me one day, and he called me and left me a voicemail, and I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't trying to hear what he had to say. He was asking me he said I wanted to talk. I actually still have the voicemail. He's like, I want to talk to you, son. And I heard it and I considered it. I mentioned it to my mom. You know, she was like, she's like, I've gotten over it. She's like, I think you should actually give him a chance. Still didn't listen to
Oh,
her.
she wanted you to forgive him.
She did.
Oh, wow.
Um, so still, I didn't listen to her. And my uncle, he called me and he was like, your father, he's like, he's not in good shape. He really wants to speak to you. So I gave it a shot. I called him. We talked about things. I asked him why he did the things that he did. And to be honest, bro, he really just gave me the runaround. He did apologize for hiding it. He told me that, he didn't want to hurt. He didn't mean to hurt us. To me, that was just like, I felt like he was sincere when he said that, but at the same time, it's just like, I mean, there had to have been better ways that you could have gone about this. Had to have been, you know. But he he had finally admitted it. Finally,
What
um,
was he saying at first? When you first caught him, what was he saying? Or when you said that you first caught him?
he tried to say that it was. He tried to say that it wasn't his. He said it was his friend's daughter.
Okay.
I was like, why? Okay, so why do you have pictures of your friend's daughter and another woman in your truck? Like, come on, man.
Right, like
Like he,
why would you have a random picture with a friend's daughter?
you know what I mean? It's like, when people like that, when they get caught in like blatant lies, they just say the first thing that comes out of their
Right,
head.
right,
They're just making it worse.
right, right, right,
So just terrible liar,
right,
terrible.
right.
But we had that conversation. Not gonna lie, the first conversation him and I had wasn't very pleasant. Because I was going in there hoping that he would just like apologize, and to be honest, I don't think I was really trying to hear him out, trying to listen to what he was trying to say. I went in there angry, and I wasn't giving him a real chance. And that first conversation didn't go so well. I mentioned it to my younger brother, and he's just like, "That's. Are you sure that's how you want to end off on this? End off on that relationship?" And he's like, because life is short. He's getting older.
Mhm.
I'm like, you're probably right. We ended up talking maybe like a week or two later. That conversation was a lot better.
Okay.
He repeated it to me again. He's like, he didn't mean to hurt me, but then he said something that kind of stuck out to me. He was just like, um, I he wouldn't have changed anything about what he did.
He doesn't regret it.
Eh, he didn't regret it. You know, I mean, he's that way. He said, "What happens, happens." You know, he's sorry. He was like, he in the moment. He said to me in the moment, he wasn't really thinking about what the consequences would have been. You know,
He
and
wasn't expecting to be caught.
exactly. For he said that, I'm like, yeah, you didn't thinking about that because this woman that you're doing this with is a million miles away from us. So you just knew that you were. This is also I'm about to age myself a little bit. But this is before like cell phones. You know, it was hard to be able to track people like that. Like there weren't too many people with like caller ID and stuff like that. You know, he was just convinced that not that we would never find out. You
Right.
know, which is pretty crazy to me.
Right.
But
Well, if it weren't for the picture, I really wonder how long that would have lasted.
exactly. You know what I mean? I probably never would have known. You know, but I got to hear him out. He said that he never wanted to hurt us, but you know, he was like me and your mom. He didn't really go into detail, but he was like me and your mom. We were kind of going through some things. You know, met this lady through one of his friends whom I had met before.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and they got to talking. You know, he went to his when he would go to Texas, he had a friend that lived out there. So instead of him lodging in like hotels and stuff like that, sometimes he would crash there to save money. So he would go there, and you know, there was the lady that would be there. His wife, his friend's wife, had a friend that would be there from time to time, and then, you know, he got to talking. My dad, he was a drinker, and
Okay.
from how he described it, it was just one thing kind of led to another, and that kind of thing happened. He was like, so you know, it happened. He's like, I don't really regret it because you know he said he loves her too, talking
Right.
about his daughter, my half sister, and I'm like,
Right.
I guess I can appreciate that. You know, at the very least, and at least you're not fucking abandoning this girl too.
Right.
You know, that's how I look at it. But you know, he was
Right.
finally honest about it to me. You know, and from the things that he had said and things that he had did, it's just the lies that he went through to try to hide it in the first place. You know, for to me, for him to finally, you know, be open about it and finally be honest, to me, I thought was a big step, and it just kind of gave me an idea to like, all right, well, at least, you know, it's very late, but at the very least, you're actually trying. You know, so if you can do that, there's no reason why I shouldn't at least give it an effort too. Like this is the second time that him and I had talked. Like the first time, like I said, it didn't go so well, but he was finally honest about it, and like in my head, I'm like, okay. Going back to what my brother said, you know, it's like, you know, you got he life is short. So the fact that he was actually able to open up about it, you know, I'm like, he's putting in an effort. There's no reason for me to not at least try, you know. So that was kind of how that conversation ended, you know. And I just, you know, I figured like, okay, like what's done is done, you know, it's happened, you know. He's not, because at the same time, like he wasn't in the best health at that point either.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm like, I can try. I can do this. I can try to do this, and I just start keeping in more contact with him, and you know, we slowly started to rebuild the relationship that had been broken all those years ago. It wasn't very easy, you know. It had been so long since I spoke to him,
Yeah.
but we I like to think that you know he because he's passed away now. He passed away in
Oh, okay.
2023.
I missed that
Yeah.
part if you said it. Sorry, I missed it.
No, it's I just said it, but
Okay.
um I like to think that before that happened, you know, he didn't pass away knowing that that I didn't love him. You know,
Right.
he's my dad. You know, there's I mean like there was that, but there's still some, you know, there's some fond memories obviously that I have of him.
Hmm.
You know, it, I really, really just wish that it just didn't have to be that way. You know, but I'm not gonna say everything happens for a reason, but I will say that, you know, given the circumstances, I'm just happy that we were able to, bury the hatchet, so to speak, before he left this
Yeah.
world.
So can I share my thoughts on this?
Yeah.
So, first of all, I can tell that this topic means a lot to you. And I agree that everything might not happen for a reason. I actually agree with that 100%. First of all, I want to say that your past resentment in the past was 100% justified. Okay, your anger, you're maybe, you maybe not being so nice to him, whatever. I feel like your anger was 100% justified, and also your forgiveness as well, because it sounds like you did reach the point where you forgave him, and that's a choice. I feel like forgiveness is a choice, and it's a good choice, and you made it. So I personally, I don't feel like you have anything to feel guilty about.
Thank you.
Would
I,
you
I
agree with that?
you know, for a long time after he passed away, I kind of did, only because, like, I mean, unfortunately, it was because he passed away. I'm
Hmm.
like I said, we buried the hatchet, whatever, but like he's gone now. I can't talk to him even if I want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that I don't, but I don't have that opportunity anymore. So, and like I said before that happened, like we started to rebuild our relationship. We started talking about some of the hobbies that we had. Like he was the one who got me into NFL football and the NBA. So like we would talk sports. We would bicker back and forth about whose teams are better, whatever. It was like it felt like it felt like we were really starting to build a father son relationship again. And that was something that I needed when I was younger.
Yeah.
But uh, I regretted it for a long time, not doing that sooner. But
Uh-huh.
you know, I've made peace with the fact that I was able to that there was reconciliation between us since
Yeah.
then.
And I also think that it's really, really easy to regret things in retrospect. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's really, really easy to say like I regret eating the birthday on the cake on my birthday because I got a stomach now. But at the time
Mm,
it was my birthday and it was fun and it was really good. And if I didn't eat it, my parents would have been offended. And
right.
like in this situation, like it's really easy to say, well, I regret like being so mean to my father, but at the time you were angry and he cheated and you had the right to be angry. You know what I mean? So it's like it's really easy to regret it once he passed away, but at the time you were right. I mean, that's how I
I
feel.
I like to I like to think that too. You know, I know, and another a big part of this obviously too is like, I'm not gonna say I'm a mama's boy or anything like that, but like that's mom's, bro. Like she brought me here. Like I don't exist without her, bro. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't want to see her hurt. I've seen my mother in tears way more times than I feel like anybody, any person, especially a child, should have ever seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And especially to know that it was because of you. It's like I don't. That's tough, man. It was really tough for me. It's just like I also feel like that kind of played a part in why I grew up so much. It's like my mom, she had 4 kids. My dad was constantly on the road. She was trying to care for all of us. Between that, trying to work, trying to care for all of us, and trying to carry the burden of the way that he's acting and the things that he's doing, that would be tough for anybody.
Hmm.
So it's like, I mean, and I don't think it was very, not to say that she did this, but I don't think it would be selfish for her to take the time for herself to try to be the best, healthiest version of herself that she could be. But it's just like, you're doing all this stuff. How There's a lot of stuff that you have to kind of put to the side for you to be able to do this. Do it in a proper way to try to be the best version of yourself. And it's like, it's not to say that she couldn't do it or didn't do it, but that had an effect on all of us. It really was a huge fracture in our family, and I think that kind of played a part into like why it's been so tough for me growing up. It's also been a big reason why I respect relationships too much for me to try to, if I'm gonna get involved with somebody, it's because I'm genuinely interested. I want to try to build something, and I don't want to, the last thing I want to do is waste anybody's time or hurt anybody.
Yeah. Or
So
your own time.
exactly. Like it's a waste on all parties. So and it's just like seeing the way my family deteriorated the way it did. It's like I've always made a promise to myself that if I'm going to be involved with somebody, that I'm going to do the best that I can to try to maintain this as healthy as possible. Just because of my experiences growing up and the things that I've seen within my own family.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're very, very clear about that you want to break the cycle and that you don't want to continue, having any sort of affair. I feel like the last person in the world to have an affair is you, just because you have experienced what it feels like to be on the other end. And if I were you, I mean, I'll be the first to say that I'm the biggest mama's boy. Like I love my mom to death. You said you kind of didn't want to admit it about yourself. I love my mom. Like I'm the biggest mama's boy. I
Oh, of
see her
course, yeah.
5 days a week. And if I were you, the next time you talk, I would say something. Maybe the next time it comes up, I would say something very similar to what I said to you, which is like, it's really, really easy to regret something like in retrospect, but at the time, like you had the right to be hurt, you had the right to be mad, and it's so easy to feel guilty once the person passes away. But then, at the time he was alive, at the time, and at the time you had the right to feel however you felt and say what you needed to say. So I'm gonna do a quick check-in because we just passed an hour. How are you on time? Do you have more time? Do you gotta go? How are you?
Uh, I can do a few more minutes. Yeah,
Okay, because
he's already he just messaged me just now, but I can do a few more minutes if you want.
okay, yeah. So I mean, I wanted to talk about dating, but if you're in a rush, we can keep it as short as you want because we just passed an hour. So
Mm.
yeah, we want to talk about dating. How I mean, this is the question I didn't ask you yet. How did all of that affect your current like dating life?
Well, as I said, like I personally, like I don't really, I don't do the whole cheating thing. I don't, I don't like, I don't try to entertain multiple people. You know, I'll be the first to admit I don't. I'm not gonna say I'm short on patience, but
Mhm.
or I'm antisocial or anything like that. But I don't care to be, you know, in everybody's face, so to speak. So when it comes to relationships, like I'm very picky, and I think people should be. You don't want to just get with somebody for the sake of doing it just because you find somebody attractive because they have a nice body or anything, or excuse me, because of their status or anything like that. Like I want to get to
Mhm.
know the person. And unfortunately, we live in a time now where social media is so prominent that people can
Mhm.
just jump online, specifically women, as we were talking about earlier, who
Yep.
have,
Yep.
who have all these guys in their face, telling, giving them all these
Yep.
compliments where, not to say that
Yeah.
they're all, I'd be ignorant if I said all women are like this, I feel like, but there's just a large, very, very, very large, uh, amount of women, men too, but a very large amount of women who just feel like that they have all these options because of social media. So where um, you'll talk to somebody, she might even genuinely be interested, but the moment you
Right.
say or do anything that she might not like, it's like, okay, well, yeah, that's boring. On to the next. On to the next. And it's just a repeated cycle over and over and over. And it's just like everybody wants to post all the positivity, all the positive stuff that's going on in their life. Nobody wants to post anything that's going wrong. So there's a lot of stuff, and a lot of people are hiding. Not necessarily hiding, but people aren't putting out there like whatever they might think may be a red flag to somebody else. And it's really hard now, I'd say, to really try to get to know somebody, just because people are always, everybody wants to be on the go, everybody just wants instant gratification just like that. So when you're not,
Yeah.
when people
Yeah.
aren't getting that, they're looking for the very next high, so to speak. And it's just made the dating world so much more complicated. I saw a statistic, this is years ago, but it was something like like 45% of divorces now are started because of something that was happening on Facebook. And it's
Wow.
like, yeah, I'm like, Facebook is like, it's just social media. But that's got
Right.
people sliding each other's DMs and liking pictures and just all. I mean, that stuff doesn't really matter to me, but it's just people now just feel like they can just do whatever they want, have all the options that they want, and that's just okay. And you got all these other people who are just so prideful and would never, want to admit that they're wrong or that they're missing out on something. So rather than it's just fight or flight kind of thing. And most people now just feel like they just want to take flight. And I don't, not to say that I don't have the patience for that, but there's just a lot of people who just really aren't willing to, really get to know a person. Or even if they do, they see something wrong, or if this is one thing, like I said earlier, like they see an ick, then they're going to be ready to be out the door. It's like, I mean, nobody's perfect, but that's what everybody's searching for. And that to me is the biggest problem in dating right now.
Yeah,
And that's part of the reason
I
why
agree.
I is just like kind of not necessarily taking a step back, but I just try to be more vigilant on who it is that I'm giving my time to. And it hasn't been easy.
Yeah, I definitely agree that we have to be very cautious, and you use the word picky, and I agree. I think that nowadays, it's really, really easy to to walk away from someone for the tiniest thing, like you said. I will admit, even though this is a mental health podcast, I will admit that, I have noticed a lot of women on social media feel like they have unlimited options. And here's where like I disagree with some people, because some people would say like, no, you don't have unlimited options. My stance is a little bit different. My stance is, okay, you might have unlimited options, granted, but that doesn't mean that you should walk away for the tiniest little thing, because nobody's perfect. And no matter what, every single man you meet will eventually have something that you don't like, something that you hate, whether it's, your personal taste, or something that that's really objectively a flaw. So I feel like there's such a fine line between like unrealistic expectations, and also don't telling ourselves not to settle, because we're told like, don't settle, don't settle, don't settle, don't settle, but then there's some people with just absurd expectations. And
Yes.
I feel like a lot of women and men are at that place now. And I feel like the older we get, the better we get at having more realistic expectations, because I will admit that when I was 20, 21, 22, I did sort of have unrealistic expectations. I'll be the first to admit. So as I get older, I would definitely say that my expectations have become more realistic and more crystallized, I'd say.
I don't really think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I kind of feel like how you feel as far as what you were saying, but I feel like social media has been pushing that agenda for a very long time. And I'm just under the mantra of the grass isn't always greener, man. Nobody is perfect. There's gonna be some flaws everywhere. And going back to what you were saying about we're all taught not to settle, and it's just like um, you know some people will hear that and they're like, okay, well, I want a person who makes this amount of money, or I want a person that lives in this kind of house, or a person that drives this kind of car. It's like materialistic shit, stuff that doesn't really matter, stuff that isn't really gonna matter that much when it comes to creating an emotional bond with this person. Because I mean, stuff like that, you know, you can lose that any of that shit any day, bro. Like no, you never know what could happen. So to just walk away from somebody who, I don't know, because you might not like the way they dress or something stupid, anything stupid like that, just because you feel like you have a better option. Meanwhile, this person might be the best person for you, might be the person who, you know, cares about you, is going to take care of you when you're sick, um, hold you down when you're in a bind or anything like that, as opposed to these other guys who probably gonna be in your DMs who only just want to sleep with you. It's just like it's it just doesn't seem worth it to me, and they don't really think about that. So then what happens is you'll you'll have these options. It's like I said, it's both men and women. I feel like
Hmm.
personally, I feel like it happens more frequently with women than it does men. But like
Sure.
they'll have this option. They'll have this guy, probably a great guy, but then they'll see or they'll find somebody else or some other dude like slide in their DMs or just try to talk to them. And this person might have more. They might have a little more status. They might be a boss somewhere, or anything like that. And a lot of them be like, "Oh well, I must. There must be something about me that this person wants me." So like it's kind of like in a way, to me, it comes off as like they have like some sort of ego boost. I if I can get this person, this means that I must be somebody. So let me go see
Right.
what this person is going on and just got see what this person's got going on and just whatever happens with this other guy is just whatever, I guess, kind of thing. So um, I just there's people will sacrifice like something good just for something temporary, and that's the biggest issue I think is going on in the dating world right now. And it's to me, it's because of social media. It's primarily because of social media. People just can't. Everybody has their phone in their hand at all times. You know,
Hmm.
um, with social media now, you can message somebody, you can call people on certain apps. You don't even have to have like you can go buy a phone. Don't even have to have it activated. Just get some Wi-Fi. You can talk to somebody on the phone whenever you want.
Right.
It's just
Right.
so easy to get in contact with whoever you want, whenever you want. And it's just even and there's even somebody I think have you ever used Snapchat? You take a
Yeah,
picture
I
or you
have one.
send
I have been using it a long time, but yeah.
But yeah, it's like you take a picture, you can send a message, and then it's gone forever. Like after that, like people, I've seen and I've heard that people have used that to set up, uh, just be out here just doing people dirty, like cheating and just stuff like that. Just because it's easy to not get caught with that, you can delete messages on Instagram with somebody, a whole conversation with somebody's having, they can never be tracked. You know what I mean? And people will find certain ways and find really good ways, unfortunately, to be able to cheat or treat people badly. And it's because of social media. To me, it's just so bad. And it's just
Yeah, I agree.
it's made the dating world that much more difficult.
Yeah, I think social media makes it a lot easier to cheat, a lot easier to meet new people, a lot easier to just DM and like you said, to boost your ego. You can a woman can post one thing and get a million compliments. So it's very, very easy to get male attention through social media. And then it's to the point like, well, why should I get a boyfriend if I'm already getting male attention for free without sacrificing anything? Why should I even get a boyfriend? And why should I settle for one man's attention when I can just post a photo and get 1,000 men's attention? It's so easy. And it's interesting because before you were talking about like the things that make marriages last and relationships last, and like when they've done many studies on this, and I'm telling you guys, everyone listening, height and income are not on that list of like the things that make marriages last. I mean, as long as the income is stable, it does matter to a certain extent, to the point where you can pay the bills. But after that, like, two millionaires, I mean, look at Jennifer Lopez, right? She got divorced many times. Or like Jennifer, not to like the point any names, but the point is that the things that really make marriages last are like emotional intelligence, understanding, communication, trust, loyalty. It's a lot of those like old school quote unquote values, that, as opposed to like 6 inches or six figures or six pack or 6 feet tall or whatever. So Brandon, I kind of ran out of questions. Was there anything else you wanted to say or add?
I just want to say, I want to say that I want people to be better when it comes to stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say you need to be out here just trying to, you know, just date whoever you want. Like obviously, whoever you're gonna end up being with, you want to be at least somewhat attracted to them. I'm not saying you gotta go out there and just find somebody you just. And I'm not saying anybody's ugly, but go out there and just try to find somebody who you're just not attracted to. Like, I'm not saying that, but what I will say is just, like, it's okay to give people a chance. Like so many people are just look at people at like surface level and just think that they have it
Yeah.
all figured out of who this person is. It's like, no, you don't know that. This person could very well be the best person to have the best intentions for you, as opposed to this person over here. Especially like people who have money. Like, you're gonna go chase after somebody who has all this money. You think that person doesn't have options too?
Right,
It's
right.
it's like you don't. It's to me in situations like that, it's like the blind leading the blind. I just want more people to just just try to look within of other people, really get an understanding of who these people are, see what their intentions are. It's not always going to work. And there are some people, I'm not saying that everybody's honest and stuff like that. You will find people who will try to deceive you and try to use you and stuff like that, but it's to just not give a person a chance because of what it is you think they may or may not like, whatever they might not have, like you said, like financially or stature wise. I just think it's just, I'm just saying, I think it's foolish. It's like you're not
Yeah. I
you're doing more harm than good, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that what Brandon is trying to say is to have an open mind and to be very, very slow to assume things. In my opinion, men and women, especially men, and now I'm gonna get to the men, pay way too much attention to looks. I know that
For
women
sure.
do too, but I think men do it more, and I think that we do it way too much. So to kind of like rephrase what you said, have an open mind, and you never know, like that guy who's maybe your Uber driver, that guy who might be a plumber, or that guy who might be in your DM saying, hey, like, have an open mind, because you never ever know how much happiness that man can bring you. And even if his response is a little boring, even though hey is a little bit boring, you just never know. Yeah, it might be a little bit boring, but that man might make you super happy. So what I'm hearing Brandon say, and what I'm saying also myself, is to have an open mind. Hey guys, it's Chris. Hope you guys liked today's video. And if you want to see more mental health videos, please subscribe. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. Peace and love.